I'm Sarah Hagan. I've got a shop called Healthy Indulgence in Cowes. We've been there 8 years actually now, which is seems to have gone really quickly. But I just thought to start with, I'd just tell you a bit about me and why I've got the business, if that makes sense. So the business has started from me being ill. So I had chronic fatigue for 6 years and I was bedridden for about 3 years of it. So it's the background of that, and we were sort of talking earlier about how it all sort of came to pass, was that I used to be, in my old life, I used to be a sailing secretary at the Royal Southern Yacht Club on the mainland in Hamble. We used to run events all year. I was there for about 8 years and I was running about between 30 and 40 events each year. Worked all year, but from about March to October, 7 days a week. So bit of a surprise in the winter why I'd always be ill, but it was a bit like, that's okay, go to the doctors, get some medication, move on, carry on. So also at home at the time had an alcoholic husband, so there's a lot of stress going around at the time for me. Got rid of him. Cut a long story short, got rid of him. Remarried, we moved to the island, thought it was a good start, new place to start, left all the rubbish over there, so to speak. And I used to do all the course announcements for Cows Week. I've done it for about 17 years, always end up with a sore throat at the end of it. And this particular year, I think it was 2006, something like that, I just couldn't get rid of the sore throat. It just carried on for months. And doctors couldn't do anything about it. Finally got rid of the sore throat, and then the tiredness hit. And it was so bad, I literally couldn't do anything. So sleep doesn't revive you, you just couldn't do anything. And also you realise that anxiety and stress builds. So I remember my husband coming home, he'd just been into Cows, came back and he said, I've just met such and such out there and they're just going to pop up for a coffee. Well, would have thought a nuclear holocaust was going to happen the way I reacted. It was like, couldn't do it, couldn't do last minute stuff, it had to be planned. Now if it was a week ahead, I could probably manage that, but I couldn't do last minute stuff. So it was a really tricky way of handling everything. Chronic fatigue is a very odd illness in some ways. It starts off quite physical, it goes much more mental health as well. I remember somebody saying to me, you've got depression. I'm like, no, it's frustration, because I just wanted to wake up in the morning and decide what I wanted to do. It was, you lost that choice really. My daughter was 6 at the time and my husband was working in Manchester, very unhelpful. And my day would be get up, get Jess ready for school, drive. So if I walked to the school from the house now, it would probably take me 10 minutes. So I used to drive to the school, park as close as possible. It would take me about 20 to 30 minutes to walk from the car to the school, walk back, go home, go to sleep, set the alarm, pick her up. That was my day. That's all I could achieve. And there was occasions, I remember I'd had a shower, came out, and I couldn't pick the hairdryer up. I mean, physically just couldn't lift it. And my husband was like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, don't worry, I'll just go back to bed. And I just sort of crawled back into bed still with the towel around me. And he was like, you can't get into bed with the towel still on you, it's wet. And I'm like, leave me alone. And it was just really difficult. So the last thing the doctor said to me was I was going to be ill 20, 25 years. And I said, that's not acceptable. So we started researching about what ME was all about, chronic fatigue, about how to manage it. So we realised you had to retrain the brain. You had to stop the body believing that illness was its normal state and retrain it to be well. So you had to do things like, if I did anything that exhausted me, that was reconfirming that was your normal state. If you did something and go, well, okay, I've achieved that and I feel all right, that's a massive success. So as I started to sort of come out of it, it was a bit like I'd set a timetable of things to do. So it was silly things like hoover half the lounge in the morning and iron one shirt in the afternoon. And that's all I could do, but you started achieving things. And it was a really positive way of starting to think like, actually, I'm being more productive in my own life. Food played a massive part. So for me personally, I couldn't do meat anymore. Meat just exhausted me. The whole digestive process of trying to do it just exhausted me. So I went more vegetarian. Dairy's always been a problem for me, so that was always something I played around with. But it was taking out any stimulants as well. So my body couldn't tolerate any sugars, caffeine, alcohol, and stress, which was always the one that was playing around. So I used to do things like manage stressful situations. So if I was going somewhere that I felt was stressful to me, I would meditate beforehand, deal with the situation and meditate afterwards, so you stop the spiralling. It's a bit like, I think chronic fatigue is a bit like being that Duracell bunny. It's like the body's just, and the mind is just on the go the whole time. You never feel that you just can feel calm. So routine was critical, to be honest. It was like, get up at the same time of day, have meals at the same time of day, do your chores at the same time of day, go to bed at the same time. Even a nap was at the same time. And actually my cat that I've still got, she got so in the routine, she'd come and find me at nap time, so say, come on, it's that time. But it was so crucial to becoming, because all of that routine, you're not thinking about things. It's not sort of going, oh yes, I've got to cook dinner, what am I cooking? No, that was planned for the week, and I still do that. I still decide what we're having for the week, shop for the week, and it's all written down. So things like that make such a difference to sort of how it all move forward. We, my husband had a great idea that we were going to go on holiday, and he said, "Yep, I've had a bonus. We're going to go to the Caribbean." Well, we got to the airport. Okay, got on the plane. Okay, they had to carry me off the plane, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're now a long way from home. What's going to happen?" But within about 24, 48 hours, I felt amazing, and I was like, oh, I've cracked it. We should have just come on holiday. Had an amazing holiday, absolutely brilliant. Got home, within a week back to normal, well, my normal. So we were going, so what was the difference? So we realised it was the quality of the daylight. So in England, that's the daylight box. And then it was also, with the heat level and the humidity level, I was perspiring. As a lady, we don't sweat, you know, perspiring or glowing, isn't it? And so that was the infrared sauna. So we related it. We brought the same environment back into cows. Didn't quite have the beaches and everything, but so I would do 2 infrared saunas in the day and have the daylight going. And that was one of the first things that really started moving me forward to progress, because you realise with chronic fatigue, the body can't detox. And actually generally as people, we're trying to stop the body sweating, deodorants, and we don't want to sweat. Well, actually we do. The skin is the biggest organ on the body to detox. And people with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, they don't sweat, they don't perspire. So with the sauna, when I'm well now, 10, 15 minutes to perspire, it would take me about an hour and a half. I'd just be sat there, and it was a really good barometer of how well I was how quickly that sweating process would happen. So that for me was the part of the really good thing to sort of start, moving forward. So where am I? See, I'm rambling now. Let me think. So I still, now when I work with clients, I still bring a lot of those routines in. It's trying to sort of stop the churning. It's like meditation is massive. It's breathing techniques. It's bringing in good diet, good food, taking out anything that's going to stimulate the body. Because if your level is here, your normal level might be here, but you're down here. If you stimulate your body, you're going to spike you, but you're going to plummet again. So we want to take those stimulants out to raise the body feeling better without any stimulants. But of course it's very difficult in our normal social lives as such. You have to discount that. It was really interesting as well with friends how I lost a lot of friends being ill because they couldn't deal with long-term illness, because they couldn't get it into the head. You look fine, you haven't got a broken back or a broken leg, that they know how you're going to get well. Any long-term illness is really difficult, especially if you look okay. You might look a bit tired. I remember one friend said to me, well, I've had flu for 2 weeks, I've been really ill. And I went, well, that's how you feel. I feel all the time. And she went, no, can't be. And then I had a level of friends that were amazing when I was ill, absolutely brilliant, they helped. But as I became better, they moved away, and you realise there's a lot of friends that it's about them and it's about what they need rather than what an individual needs. And it was quite fascinating how people are around illness and how it all works. So that was quite fascinating for me. And I still see it, actually, now. I also work, which has probably come forward that I didn't do, but I work with clients. I suggest that they have a happy book. So as I suggest them, have a really nice notebook that you go and you love this book because it's beautiful, And each night you write 3 happy thoughts down. And it's about happy thoughts about you. It's not happy thoughts that you've met someone or the weather was nice. It's about what you felt within yourself. And it's a great thing to finish on a positive end of the day, but it's also a really good thing to look back on, that actually you may feel that actually everything's really difficult because you've got this, you're not feeling great, but actually you've had these thoughts going through you. And I recommend to try and change from negative to positive thoughts. So we do what we call a black ball and white ball. So you can do it physically or you imagine it. So you've got white balls are positive thoughts, black balls are negative thoughts. So every time you think something, I've had a really rubbish day, well, that's a black ball. So then you've got to go, I've got to take that black ball out. So actually it hasn't been because I've been here to the group or, I've done something. So you take the black ball out and you put the white ball. So at the end of the day, your aim is to have pretty much all white balls. But you realise it's very easy to think negatively about life. I remember my daughter saying to me, she said, it's such hard work to be positive all the time, Mum, because we generally go more negative. So it's just people being mindful about how they're thinking about during the day. So that's what I do in that. So from the illness, 6 years in total I was unwell, and as I started to get better, I decided that it'd been such a journey for me that I wanted to see if I can work with other people to find a way forward for them from their health. And food was just such a big part of it, and it's our fuel. We don't put, as I say to a lot of my gentlemen clients, that you don't put diesel in a petrol car, and you make sure the windscreen washer's filled up and you've got oil in the car. But we tend to not look at food really as a fuel for our own body, because food has become, our treat foods have become the foods that actually damage the body. So it's quite a warped way now of how we look at food, and it's really difficult. And you walk into a supermarket and actually how much is real food anymore? There's some products that don't even have food items in them, if that makes sense. So it's really difficult how we've become. So for me it was a massive change. I was brought up on, my mum just did ready meals, that's all. She had a microwave and an oven. That was a grill. I don't think the oven worked either. But it's to change into actually eating and cooking real food was huge. So I trained to be a nutritionist, and I changed our dining room into a mini shop so that people that came to see me as a client, we could recommend supplements and some foods and things like that. So it was really interesting actually looking at it back, because when you do these, you sort of were thinking back about what you were doing. And so somebody used to come in, I used to research what they were coming for, and you deal with it. And I remember the first client came and we were talking and she burst into tears, and in my head was like, they didn't tell me this was going to happen on the course. It was like, oh, and you're like, okay, I'll get some tissues. And it was really interesting because it was like, for me, it was all about food, but actually food is very emotional. So it's not black and white. And of course, we're not clones, so we have to work with people as individuals. And I think that's one of the lessons I've learned through my process. In fact, actually, this one client came back to me not that long ago, and I was quite nervous about her coming back because it was a bit like, was I all right then, or am I all right now, type of thing. And she was like, she said, I just remembered it, and she said, well, you're very different now. And I went, is that a good thing or not? And she said, you've got more knowledge, you've gained more knowledge over the years, and you're not so textbook. And I think that's what the shop has brought me, that people aren't textbook. You can learn all this stuff, but we're not textbooks. So So we called it healthy indulgence because I sort of had gone around looking at other health food shops, and I realised probably more what I didn't want it to be like, more than I did want it to be like. I'd had no retail experience. Looking back, I must have been bonkers, to be honest, but anyway. So healthy indulgence is about healthy food, but we can still be indulgent. It's about enjoying food. There's nothing worse than people going, yes, you've got to eat all this weird and wonderful food, but you're dreading every minute of the day that you're eating. It's got to be enjoyable. So we started it February 2011 in a recession. We thought it could only get better, so luckily it did. So tying in all that, you realise that actually the main part of the body is, we've got two brains now, they've realised. So one is here, that we all know about, and the second one is the gut. And health it's all about the gut. everything we're putting in has a massive impact on the gut. So we have between 300 and 500 different bacteria species in our guts. And when you look at probiotics that are in shops and everything, they've probably got between 14 and 20 different, so they're still really low of what we need. So we get the right environment by the food we have. I did a course recently, and we were talking in the course, and they said we need to aim for 30 different plant-based foods a week. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, I'm vegan, so I do eat plant-based, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I do 30. But you can include herbs and spices and things, and it was really interesting actually. It'd be interesting actually to look at your own way that you eat and going, do I have that diverse amount of food that is coming into my diet? Because if you don't, you're not keeping this gut, a healthy gut and healthy nutrition, what's going on. Modern life can also affect it, of course. Antibiotics, stress, too little sleep, too much sugar, and things like that. So that any acidity is bringing into is killing this sort of whole environment off. If the gut's not right, we can have signs of depression, lack of sleep, IBS. I mean, I think the hormone levels can be wrong. So it's just vast. This is the barometer of our health, really. So, where am I? So it's also autoimmune conditions. So actually a lot of people, so actually where the NHS are going wrong, they fix people with drugs, but they fix the symptoms. They don't look at the whole person. I think I was saying to someone earlier, I've got a client at the moment who's got 5 consultants. So one's for his left knee, one's for his right eye, and nobody looks at him as a person. It's like you're separating all these bits, but it's a bit like, I'd be like, so why is all this going wrong in the body? What's happening to the body? Why does he need to go and see all these people and be on this vast amount of medication that actually nobody's looking over all of what's happening? So with foods that we can help the gut, there's different things. There's prebiotic foods and probiotic foods. So the prebiotic foods are things like garlic, onions, asparagus, chicory. Don't know if anyone has chicory coffee. It's amazing. And flaxseed and Jerusalem artichokes, which they're quite fierce, I think, sometimes. But yeah. Probiotic foods are fermented foods, so things like kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, things like that. But it's not going, I eat all of that. It's quality, not quantity. So you don't have to be like, oh, I've got all these fermented foods going in, because actually, if you're not careful, you sort of overload the system. It's about bringing in smaller amounts regularly, rather than like, oh yes, this whole meal's all fermented. Your body wouldn't like that. It's also, I think, going back to the diversity, people do eat, we're very routine eaters. Certainly breakfast, most people have the same breakfast. A lot of people have the same lunch. Dinner's varied a bit, but it's, we can be eating, wheat at breakfast, wheat at lunch, and pasta and wheat in the evening. So it's about looking about, if you have 3 types of breakfast, so you rotate them, 3 types of lunches, and that's not 3 sandwich fillings. But trying to actually go, right, if I just have 3 meals that I rotate, you're getting a bigger diverse of foods, and it all helps. So what does our body really need? In the simplistic food, it's protein, carbohydrates, fats. That's the simple thing. So protein is the building blocks of life. So every cell in the body needs protein, but not too much. If we have too much protein, it becomes a dirty fuel, and then the body doesn't deal with it. So carbohydrates, it's energy levels. There's a lot of diets around low carb diets. There's so many things going on, and it's actually, we do need carbs, but it's probably not white carbs, so it's not white pastas, it's not, it's bringing in whole grains more. It's looking at vegetables. Vegetables are carbs. They seem to always forget that when they go low carb diet. So it's bringing in, again, a variety and good quality food. Sugar is a simple carbohydrate. That's the one that's damaging. That's a nightmare. It's more addictive than cocaine. It's very addictive. How many people do you know that goes, I only have a biscuit with my morning cup of coffee, but can you have the morning cup of coffee without the biscuit? The body's like, oh, give me that sweet craving. But it lowers our immunity. It robs the bones of minerals, ages us. Oh, that's a good reason not to have any sugar. Obesity, of course. Robs of energy. People think they're having sugar to give them energy, but it's spiking and dropping. So it's giving you a burst of energy, but then you're going to drop. And so a lot of people go, oh, I need some energy, let's have some sugar. Oh, I've dropped, I feel a bit shaky, oh, I need some more sugar. Well, of course, we're heading towards insulin problems, type 2 diabetes, things like that.
Do you include honey in that sugar?
It is still a sugar.
Yes, I know.
You know, that's the difficulty. Lower, what they call lower GI sugars are things like berries, coconut palm sugar, stevia, things like that. But it is still a sugar, and it's really interesting because a lot of people change, but you're keeping that sweet tooth going. So you're still craving the sweet tooth, but at least it's not affecting the body in quite the same way. But yeah. But honey has a lot of benefits,
yes.
You know, so that's the other thing. Cinnamon's a good option because it gives you a sweet taste, but it stabilises your blood sugars. We need fat. For years there's been low-fat diets, and it's a massive problem now. You know, we're seeing, I believe, and this is my what I've been researching, is I believe, you know, the brain is, I think it's, where is it? I thought I wrote it down. Oh yeah, 60% of your brain is fats. So all these low-fat diets, you know, no wonder we're having a lot more higher dementia, a lot more, you know, problems with brain problems, because everyone's gone onto this low-fat. You know, nuts and seeds are not eaten anymore. Oh, look at the calories and the fats in that. That's not what's going to put the weight on you. You know, that's what the body needs. It also, without fat, we don't absorb our vitamins A, E, D and K. So, you know, even if you're taking supplements, if you're not having the right levels of fats in, and it's healthy fat, so omega oils, nuts, seeds, avocados, things like that, you know, that's the level of fats we need to be coming in. So it's looking at our body fat as well. So it's really interesting when I'm seeing clients of, you know, people's perception of a healthy weight these days is changed because we're used to seeing much bigger people all the time. So women should be between 20 and 35% body fat, and men 10 to 25. Sorry, you need much less than us women. But it is difficult, and actually having a too low body fat is as dangerous as a too high body fat. And it's quite interesting. We have some people that, you know, I can't remember what event it was, and I had this lady, she was a very large lady, and her friend who was very slim. And we were doing the scales with the body fat percentages so that we could tell people. So this very slim person was encouraging her larger fat lady to weigh, and you know, you just thought actually it's a bit mean, but anyway, so she did it and we did it. Now her body fat was on the outside of her body. Her internal, her visceral fat was really low. Well, her friend went in and she's like, ha ha, and she stood on it, and I said, can you do that again, please? Her internal fat was really, really high. And I went, actually, you're more unhealthy than your friend. And she was like, oh. But it was, you know, it's the perception. It's people we have to know. Body fat is one of the things that we have to know, along with cholesterol, blood pressure, you know, things like that. It's really important. Done that one. Right. So the other thing as well is as important. It's vitamins, minerals and trace elements. They are the sort of like the fine tuning of the body. It makes such a difference. These roles are healing the body, bolstering your bones, supporting your immune system, and it also helps to convert our food into energy. So people are individual. So, you know, again, I know I keep saying that, but it is so important to recognise that. I have so many people that come in armed with boxes of supplements because they've got so many friends that have told them which supplements are good, and we're like, right, okay, let's work out what you need. You know, if somebody's very highly stressed, their B vitamins are low, so their energy level is going to feel low, they're going to feel tired, and that's just knocking that down the whole time. But some medications are also knocking our vitamins. So a lot of people these days are on omeprazole because they're, you know, got a load of medication, or they've got acid reflux and the doctors are putting on the omeprazole. That's reducing B12 down. And it's not the vegan and vegetarians that are needing B12 at the moment, it's all the meat eaters that are on omeprazole. I'm not blaming the meat, but it's, you know, it's very interesting how the perception is that it's this group of people need the B12, but we're seeing a huge amount of people now from all walks of life that are reducing it down. So common problems, low magnesium. Find that everyone focuses on the calcium, but it's magnesium people are low on. So calcium, certainly when I'm doing my food intolerance testing, which is a big part of the business, dairy is probably 98% of people can't do cow's milk. So you take them off the cow's milk. First question, how do I get my calcium? Well, cow's milk's actually a really poor form cow's milk's a really poor form of calcium. So you can get it in green veg, sesame seeds, wonder seeds. It's like, I don't know the exact figures, but it was something like per 100 grams, milk is something like 175 milligrams of calcium. Sesame seeds is something like 2,500. It's like completely different. Mm-hmm. So there are foods that we can bring in. I think also pound for pound broccoli's got more calcium than cow's milk. But we've been so ingrained from the Milk Marketing Board all those years that milk is what we need. So it's magnesium that people are low on, and actually if people take too much calcium supplements, it goes into the wrong parts of the body, so it's not great for the body. But magnesium plays a part in so many areas of the body, but quite often we see signs of restless legs, cramps, migraines, menopause symptoms, and that's quite often a real thing for me, is like that you're low magnesium. So magnesium foods, raw cacao, so good form of chocolate, the more purest form, and high level chocolate, but of course if it's got the refined sugar in, it's a bit of a kickback, but avocados, nuts, pumpkin seeds, pulses, whole grains and tofu. So that's a really good way of getting magnesium in. A lot of people actually low magnesium, they're getting constipated all the time as well. Sorry, we've got to bring the poo into at some point. We all talk about that, or we don't talk about it. But that can be low magnesium because it's just the body's not functioning properly and it needs the magnesium to help. A lot of people, vitamin D, I see so many people in January with low vitamin D. They blame Christmas. It's not Christmas. It only stays in the body for a month. Now, unless you've been to the Caribbean in the winter, you've been low since probably about October time, and you're on fumes by December. And most of the multivitamins only have about 400 IU in, and you need about 4,000 IU per day. So when we've got this wonderful weather, so arms and legs out, actually we've nearly all got arms and legs out, 20 minutes in the sunshine, not at the heat of the day, you don't need to be burning, but just in a good level of sunshine gives you 25,000 IU of vitamin D. So that's the difference. Some people need a supplement all year because they've either they've had skin cancer, so they don't want to get any sun on their skin, very pale people, and also very dark-skinned people. They're not getting the same level of vitamin D. And also some people, they get out of their house, into their car, drive to their office. They're not in the sunshine at all. So, even in the summer, some people still need vitamin D. The one thing I've just seen that I forgot to say, and the magnesium. The difference with where we're going wrong with magnesium as well from a food point of view is when people are eating things like white rice and white pasta, it's actually 85% less magnesium than brown rice and brown pasta. Mm-hmm. So it's massive, and and I was just going on to zinc, and zinc is the same. So zinc is for healing, and then magnesium helps the body relax, I suppose, as well.
What about putting magnesium oil on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I tend to use it.
You can do. It depends how low you are. It's also, some people struggle with. It's a very prickly molecule.
Yeah.
So some people it feels either stings or it feels itchy, and it's
a little tiny tingle and then it passes. But I did hear from somebody who's fairly knowledgeable. I won't mention him because it's not fair to bring his name up. But he said that if you need magnesium, it's a very good way to get it quicker through the skin.
It can be
orally.
So some people though are so low in magnesium that we are putting them on to almost 5 or 6 tablets a day. So the tablets are about 150 milligrams. So that's the level that we're finding. And with magnesium supplements, you increase by 1 a week until you have a bit of an upset stomach, and you bring it back a level, and that's the level the body needs at the moment. So it just depends where you are and actually where your body is, and that's again, it's individual, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
The B vitamins I've talked about, so Yeah, obviously remembered that bit before this one. I think the other thing that a lot of people do forget is water. And I know that sounds really odd, but I have so many people that are just drinking the water now. Only drink tea and coffee all day, and that's dehydrating to the body. It doesn't hydrate us properly. So, and it's also I have to teach people how to drink, because what people do is, I'm thirsty and down a glass. Well, that's just gone straight through at you, and then you go into the loo. So it's not hydrating you. It's about, so, you know, something like this, it's about having like a third at a time and leaving about sort of 10 minutes in between. So small quantities much more often than, oh my God, I'm thirsty, and drink. Once you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. You've gone past that motion. And a lot of people that we have in that, sorry, constipation, yeah, they think they're drinking a lot of water, but they're also increasing their fibre because they think that's what they need. But actually they're drinking the water too fast. Then they're increasing the fibre, so they're just going to make the matter worse. Mm-hmm. It's about really getting those levels in. So herbal teas, non-caffeinated teas, you know, non-caffeinated drinks. When you go to even the non-caffeinated tea and coffee, it's not as hydrating. But it's just bringing a level of making sure you get fluids into you. I think it's, 50 to 65% of our body is water. I think there's a lot of people that it's not that, because they're not drinking anything. The other thing I think as well is, when we talk about nutrition, that a lot of people forget is exercise. It's moving. You know, people don't move. It's sort of, we're in a sort of environment that, you know, we jump in the car, or we get the escalator up, or we park as close as we can to the supermarket, and it's trying to bring in exercise that we enjoy, and it doesn't have to hit the gym and be really heavy, you know, doing something. Put the kettle on and dance, you know, I mean, it's just about moving. It's about not sort of, you know, sitting down all the time. I think I'm going to embarrass myself now, but never mind. I remember saying to a client once, you've got to start wiggling. She said, what do you mean? I said, right, you've just got to stand there and wiggle. Yeah. And I said, you know, as soon as the adverts come up, jump up and wiggle. And she's like, oh my God, my husband's going to say, what on earth's going on? I said, well, get him doing it as well. But it's about, you know, how many of us actually get to a point in the evening and then sit down, and that's it. And then you get up, you either fall asleep, or you get up and you go, oh, my neck's sore, or my, you know. So it's about moving, but, you know, it improves the mood, it boosts the energy, and it helps. Our bodies are meant to work, they're meant to move. And a lot of people, as we get older, get injured because their body is not used to doing things. And then they're, you know, how many times do we see on television videos of somebody playing with their grandchildren and going on a pogo stick or something, and then wondering why it's all going wrong? You know, it's about keeping movement and keeping flexibility. I see a lot of older people that they get to the road and they're sort of turning like this. They've lost all movement in their body. Well, it's just going to cause problems. And sleep, of course. Sleep is healing. It rejuvenates the body. It's a good quality of sleep. A lot of people come in and say to me, oh, but I wake up between 2 and 3 every morning and need to go to the loo. Well, it's not your bladder, it's your liver. Your liver's slightly overcompensating and dealing with sugars and, you know, carbohydrates. You've had probably maybe a bit more too many carbohydrates at the end of the day. So the liver's just overworking. Well, that's what's waking you up. But, you know, it's about having not disturbed sleep as much as possible. And I think the body gets into a routine as well. You know, the more you wake up, I don't know if it happens to you, but sometimes I'm like, I'm not looking at the clock. And then you look at it and it's like 2:22 again. You're like, oh no. So it's just things like that. It's actually making yourself, it's, you know, breathing before bed, you know, having something to really calm the mind, stop the churning. Because quite often we'll be fine during the day, we lie down at night, and then it starts, isn't it? What have we forgotten to do that day? So one of the other things I do rate with foods, I tend not to really work from a specific diet point of view. I don't really like diets. I like looking at what the person needs. But there's a couple of things I do work with. So we look at acid or alkaline foods. If the body's too acidic, it's unwell. If it's more alkaline, it's in a well state. That's the simplistic sort of way of looking at it. So if we're eating too acidic diet, we are going to set ourselves up for not being, you know, in great shape. Of course, stress is also acidic. So if you're eating too acidic a diet, and there's stress, it's a bit of a recipe that things are going to be not very happy. So things like, you don't have to have all alkaline. The body needs acidic foods. So 70% alkaline, 30% acidic. That's what we try to aim for. So your acidic foods are meat, wheat, dairy, eggs, sugar, alcohol, caffeine, coffee, things like that. Your more alkaline ones are your more plant-based foods. Grains are also quinoa and buckwheat, which are a more alkaline. I think they're a pseudo seed actually rather than a grain. But actually spelt is, so although spelt is a wheat, it's more alkaline. I think actually it's just not been farmed within an inch of its life, so it's much more alkaline. So if you were having a meal and you were doing a roast on a Sunday, your meat, maybe the Yorkshire pudding if that's on there as well, that would be 30% on your plate, and your vegetables and your potatoes would be 70%. So that's the aim that you try and do. So it's sometimes people look at it throughout the day, some people look at it visually on their plate. And generally I would say most people's balance is probably not quite right. So it's just looking at that and being aware of that. If there's a lot of stress going on, or sometimes I'm working with people with going through cancer treatments, going through chemo and things like that, we probably do 80-20. So we just change that acidity alkaline level a little bit more just to try help to rebalance. If the body is too acidic, the body tends to draw magnesium and calcium out of the bones to alkalise the blood. The blood's got to stay alkaline, so it will do anything possible to make that blood alkaline. So of course then if we're not getting those, the magnesium and stuff back in there, we're not going to be great. So it's really difficult, and it's again, having too acidic a diet can cause fatigue, can cause sleep problems. It can, it's all a balance really. It's going to sleep. Too much acidity, acid reflux, classic one of too acidity. Also could be a food intolerance, so that the wrong things are going into the gut, which is causing this whole acidity. Arthritis and gout, that's an acidic condition. So it's all about, the uric acid in the joints. Pain's acidic. We can get pain levels lower by changing the diet and making the body more alkaline. A lot of people I work with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, the first thing we do is put them on magnesium to help to reduce, to help the body and the muscles relax, but it also can help the pain to come down as well. High cholesterol, body's too acidic, going to raise cholesterol levels. The bad cholesterol that we all malign actually is trying to do a job. It's about, its job is to reduce inflammation. So if we've got a lot of pain, we've got a lot of stress, a lot of worry, we're causing inflammation into the body. So the bad cholesterol's going, I'm going to try and help you, I'm going to heal you. Oh, I've got to keep helping you. Oh, let's do it again. So then you go to the doctor and they go, no, you're too high in your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol's too high. Well, it's only doing its job. We've got to look at it from a different way, not just to put statins to reduce the cholesterol down. We've got to look at what's your lifestyle, what's your diet, what's going on in your life. Let's look at you as a whole person and let's reduce this all down. So, as I mentioned, one of our big things is food intolerances. For me, I found years ago that dairy was a massive problem to me. And I used to have, my favourite food was cheese. Anyway, and dairy milk chocolate. We used to buy these really big bars and cut them into 4 chunks because that was 100 calories and that was our treats because we thought we were keeping our calories down. Well, I was just poisoning myself all the time. And when I found out and took dairy out, within a week, all my IBS symptoms went. And it was a bit like, why has nobody told me this before? Why has the doctors not told me that this was even a possibility? And it's been an issue, so I still I don't do dairy at all, because if I go back on it, it just all starts up again.
So why do you think the doctors aren't telling us?
In their training of a doctor, 7 years of training, they do 2 weeks of nutrition. I think
it's less than that.
I think it is less than that. I've got some of my daughter's friends at uni training to be a doctor, and they're still not learning. And actually, I had a girl recently. She's been struggling with kidney stones, and she came to me, and she's training to be a doctor, and she's been in and out of the hospital. And one says that she's got kidney stones, one says she hasn't, one says, oh, it's anxiety. And it's like this, she was in absolute agony. And we helped a lot with the pain and to sort it out for her. And she said, I'm going to learn this side. I said, please do, and encourage your friends to do, because that's the way we've got to learn. You know, how many people do you visit in hospital and you look at what they're eating and you're like, oh my God, how are they meant to feel well? Let's get them out of here to get them better. So, you know, I think it is really frustrating, and actually clients that have had the food intolerance test done and are feeling a lot better go back to the doctor sometimes and they just sit and they say it's coincidence. It's not the food. It can't be the food.
Particularly with dairy, because it's so ingrained in our culture.
And I would say on a weekly basis I'm having 2 or 3 young mums come in with babies that are having massive problems, and it's dairy, and they're trying to tell the doctors they can't get an allergy clinic appointment, which it doesn't always show up as an allergy, it sometimes is an intolerance, which is slightly different. And they're desperate. You know, the baby's got real problems and they come in for a test, which is, I don't like testing them when they're so little, but you know, we do that. And then they've got to battle to get the formula if they're not breastfeeding, you know, and it's such hard work, and sometimes they're waiting 6 to 8 months before getting it. And it's like, surely you're seeing an increase in this happening, because I'm seeing an increase, but surely the doctors are. And they try and put them on what they call hydrolyzed milk formula. It's still milk. Whatever you want to call it, it's still milk. But the non-dairy formula is expensive. So they don't want to put them on that. Well, surely it's better.
It's the case
you
of
can
the
do
left
it
hand
yourself.
not saying what
You
the
can
right
do it
hand-
yourself, absolutely. Yeah. But it is really difficult. You know, people aren't, if they don't understand food, it's really hard for them to, you know, engage in even suggesting to do that. And the doctors are really against it as well. You know, so they're in this sort of really difficult zone because they've got a young baby, certainly if it's a first baby, you know, you don't know what you're doing, do you, with your first child, you know. And then I'm saying to them, you need to do this. In fact, I had a customer recently, and we tested the baby, very high in dairy, which I knew it was going to be, and she'd started it. Very bad eczema. Eczema is a classic sign of a dairy problem. Went to the doctors, they got her into the allergy clinic. The allergy clinic said, no, it's not dairy. And the doctor said, well, you're going to damage your child, you need to get him back on dairy. So she emailed me saying, you're a complete con artist, this is what, and I said, no, it's a different test. And I was trying to explain to her, but of course she's going to believe the doctor. And it's really hard to try and get it across to people. So her son is going to have a real compromised immune system for a very long, well, probably for most of his life. You know, so it's really difficult. But the food intolerance is a big part, because people are, I probably get the desperate people mostly, because they've done, you know, they've had tubes in, tubes up, all the tests done, the doctors go, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, there is, they've got so many symptoms that are wrong with them. So we do 2 tests, we do a 50 food one, which I do in the shop, we know the results in 40 minutes, and then we do a 200 food one, which goes off to a lab. Most people do the smaller one, and we can work very much with that. If somebody has an awful lot of problems, I try and recommend them doing the big one, so we know a complete picture. And we take the foods out, we see how the body reacts, we might have to do some gut healing and some probiotics, and then they're okay. It's you know, I've probably condensed that slightly, it can take a period of time, but you know, it's about getting that gut feeling happier, but you can't heal the gut until you've taken the poisons out. A lot of people go, my gut's unhappy, so I take probiotics. If you're still putting the poisons in, you can't heal it properly. So they just stay on probiotics all the time.
What about alcohol? Because that's a really dangerous poison.
Sorry, I don't know if I should answer this. Well, I mean, alcohol is a sugar.
Yes,
Okay.
really dangerous.
It's also, a lot of alcohols is yeast. So I had someone recently, and before doing the test, she said, don't you tell me it's my wine. I'm like, oh. And you know, you're waiting and you're seeing it develop, and I'm like, oh no. And she came back in, I went, it's yeast. And she went, I told you not to tell me. And I went, it's your blood that's telling me. It's not me that's making it up. And she was really not very happy. And I said, well, don't make the changes then. You know, that is still your option. So if yeast comes up, that covers beer, wine, cider, well, vinegars, I know that's not a drink, but you know, I'm just remembering the list. They can drink gin, vodka, tequila and champagne, but I recommend it not in the same glass because I think that's a bit over the top. So, you know, but if somebody is sensitive to sugars, then alcohol, of course, is going to... Look, we do train ourselves to like alcohol. How many of us, when we're first given a glass of red wine, go, but it's like, no, we can do this. It's going to be good. So it is, and it's also, it's very social. I mean, my body still doesn't deal with alcohol very well. I can occasionally have a drink, and I do occasionally have a drink. But I've been out and people go, well, you're just going to spoil my evening. Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm not stopping you drinking. You can get as paralytic as you want. It's like, I you know, and actually, I can still laugh and have fun. I don't need to have the drink. But it's really interesting, and a lot of places I go to, and I'll have a glass of wine in front of me, but I won't touch it. But they've seen the glass of wine, so in their mind, I'm drinking. I'm just not. I'm a slow drinker. But it is quite interesting. It's that perception that it's part of our social life. But it's, you know, it's also happy birthday, here's a cake. Well, okay, the cake's got fat, sugar, you know, wheat, processed foods in it, more sugar. And then, let's have some wine and champagne. And it's when did that happen? Yeah. When did it happen that it's like these celebratory foods that are treat foods have become so detrimental to our health? You can't say to someone, oh, happy birthday, here's some blueberries. You know, well, I might, but they're used to that.
Because so much is linked to the gut. Bipold's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But it is just, you know, it is frustrating. And I had this lady come in, I've gone off piece now. I had this lady come in, she was a grandmother, wanted to spoil her granddaughter. And she's like, she doesn't like sugar. And I went, well, that's fantastic. I was like really happy. And she went, but how can I treat her? And I went, well, what's her favourite? I said, one, you don't have to treat people with food, because actually it's much better to not use food as a treat to children. I said, but what does she love? She said, she loves blueberries. I said, why don't you buy some blueberries? She went, oh no, that's not a treat. And I went, yeah, but it is to her, you know. Exactly. I've got one of the girls that used to work with me, when she started, her little girl was 3. And she's an unusual girl. I won't say the name because you might know her on the island, so I won't say. And I remember she brought her little daughter in and she said, right, you can choose anything in the shop as a treat. And she sort of looked around, and I thought she was going to go for some of the chocolate or, you know, some of the biscuits or something. And she went, can I have a tin of butter beans and eat it with a cocktail stick? And I sort of sat there in my head, I'm like, and I did, that's not a treat. And I was like, actually, that's really interesting. And she was so excited, she was shaking, and she carried this tin home and was so excited that she was going to do it. And it really changed actually my thought process of what we do with kids and how we can make any food a treat by just saying it's a treat, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's just quite fascinating. I don't know how long I've been going on.
Yeah, you carry on.
Oh no, I've gone.
You're fine.
I mean, I think really it's just coming down to, because I want to sort of keep open to questions and things, it's about listening to the body, it's about nurturing the body. We only have one body. I know the NHS is amazing about changing your heart, or, you know, I call them the quick fix-it merchants. You know, they're amazing that your heart's gone wrong and they put a new one and off you go and you can run a marathon again. But actually, I'd rather get to 100. I want to be 100 and stand in the shop and say, I told you it worked, you know. Because I want to, from not having that 6 years of choice, I get emotional, sorry. I want to have the choice for whatever decade I'm in. I want to be able to wake up in the morning and either decide to hit someone with my walking stick, but I want that choice that I've got to do that. So it's a massive importance to me. I still have my treat foods. They're just different treat foods now, you know. But it's about enjoying life. And I said to someone recently, so many people have lost their joy in life. It's, you know, everything is such a drudgery and it's so difficult. And it's like, it's coming back to that happy book. It's about finding that joy again. And I think that's what's so important. But yeah, all the rest was boring, so that's fine. I've done well, not too bad.
I think also the availability, so, you know, going back to the treat and the children, but adults as well, when you walk through the supermarket.
It's
all the
everywhere.
chocolates laid out.
It's everywhere.
Grab. There's nothing special about it anymore.
The biggest section is the sweets.
The huge section of crisps.
And it's addictive, you know, that's the other part. I remember when I was really working hard to come off sugar. And it was things like you'd go to the garage, and it was before you get the pay at the pump thing, you know, and you'd walk along and you'd queue there and you go, I'm not having any chocolate, I'm not having any chocolate. And you move forward, I'm not having any chocolate. And you'd get there, and the last minute your arm would step out and you'd get it. And I remember it was really funny because I sort of I got this one particular time and I paid for my fuel and I got back, I got in the car and I went, oh, I didn't get any chocolate. And I'm there going, oh yes. And you can see people oh my God, don't go near that woman in that car, you know. But it was actually quite momentous because it was off the radar. It was like I wasn't thinking about it anymore. But it doesn't come back fast if you start back on it. That's the problem.
But then, you know, the marketing is so skillful that even if you think that you've cracked it, you know, you have to be very strong and positive, as you've already pointed out, to actually resist all this stuff that's being waved onto you.
But people go, oh, you're on a diet, oh, just have one cake, it won't spoil the diet. Oh, it's your birthday, come on, treat yourself. No, I don't want to treat myself like that. You know?
Yeah, I had an occasion recently, I was out to lunch with somebody and she wanted pudding and I said, no, not really, I'm not really. Oh, please, can we share it? And in the end I felt so guilty, we shared this.
But it was her that wanted it, you know, she felt guilty.
Well, I quite enjoyed it, but I can resist it, you know, and it was just...
I think as well it's really interesting with sugar because alcohol, there are people with alcoholic problems, you know, and we're all very sympathetic about it and we're all aware of it, and you can move away. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can stop alcohol being in your life. When you say to someone, so if you said I'm an alcoholic, everyone goes, oh, that's really awful. If you go, I'm a sugar addict, everyone laughs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's like one molecule difference. You know, it's so why is it that this one is acceptable and this one isn't?
And the alcoholics get help. I always said to my doctor, I'm a chocoholic.
Yeah.
I do need help.
Yeah.
I want to get off. And I find it not just that I don't get any help, and they are getting it.
Yeah.
It's better to be sweet than drunk.
Yes, true.
But also, you know, with cigarettes, we know how bad they are for you now.
Well, it used to be to calm people down. It was a relaxation. I'm not a big fan of these vape things because they're now saying, oh, it's popcorn lungs, it's causing a problem. A lot of them are having more, I want to say caffeine, nicotine. You know, because they're you know, the chemicals that are in them. And some of the kids, it's like, oh, it's fluorescent green, it's great in the clubs. Yeah, but it's killing your body off. And it's so it's just a really odd way. Why do we need these addictions? It's just, you know, it's difficult, isn't it?
Medicine works with pharmaceuticals or surgeries. You say it's about fixing things, but it's money, isn't it?
It's money.
You know, for a doctor to say, well, why don't you just take a spoonful of honey or up your garlic in your
they need
your
that
diet,
income.
Then you know that's not going to. Well, they're all completely brainwashed, I think, really, into this is how they've got to be because they wouldn't dare deviate from their protocols and all the rest of it. But it's really and that honey is free. I mean, it's not free, but you know what I mean.
It is, yes.
It's free. To,
and actually,
all
I was
of us
saying,
can go and buy a bulb of garlic.
Yeah, I was saying it's a couple of things that sort of brought to mind was one, they've moved the cholesterol levels lower. So they're trying to get people to have 3.5 cholesterol, and if you haven't got 3.5 cholesterol, we need to go on a statin. It's actually 5.2, so it's not changed. We haven't changed. The statins in some people are taking the cholesterol too high, and certainly in men, if it goes too high, they become more angry. The temper starts coming out. So again, it can be too low. It's also, we all have to fit in this box. We're not clones. So some people's cholesterol may always be 6.5 and it's always at 6.5. It doesn't fluctuate whatever we do. Well, that's okay. It's the people that you go, well, okay, 2 years ago you were at 5.2, we're out, now you're at 9. Well, that's a problem. We need to resolve this problem. But, so they're changing the goalpost because they can give statins to more, which gets them more money. Well, that's playing with people's health.
Yeah.
And about the food, I had one of my customers, she's a nurse at one of the chemo clinics. She said, we are not allowed to talk about diet. We are just not allowed to talk about it. And one of my clients a few years ago, he had very, very ill with 3 brain tumours, and we knew he wasn't going to survive, but we managed to get him another couple of years. And we put him on a very alkaline diet. And he used to take the list of foods wherever he went, so he knew what he was going to have. And he was at this chemo clinic, and one of these ladies was sort of sat there really very unwell. And he went and sort of sat next to her and talked to her, and she goes, "Oh, I just can't keep any food down, it's really bad." And he said, "Sarah would tell you to have avocados, they're very alkaline." And she went, "Oh, okay." And he went, "Here, have this list." And he came back, he said, "I need another list." And I said, "That's fine." Anyway, he came back probably about a month later. He'd been over to another clinic. He came back and he said, "I had to tell you," he said, "I walked in, and as I walked in, all I heard was, 'Avocados!' And this woman had managed to start eating and get the body functioning better by bringing some avocados in, which was great, you know. And he's like, "You need to go over there." And I went, "They won't like me talking to patients."
Well, when my sister was going through chemo and everything, they said, and she wasn't eating very much, particularly as she'd had cancer of the throat, so the operation.
Really hard.
They said, "Just eat whatever you like, cream cakes, you know." And I said to Sandra, "That's sugar, and that's not good when you've got cancer."
Exactly.
Well, the doctor said it was all right.
Yeah. And there is still a level of people that whatever the doctors say goes.
Yeah.
There are still a level of people that don't know foods. I mean, I have people that, would you believe, don't know what an avocado is, don't know what asparagus is, and it's like, it shocks me every time they go, "Oh, I've never had that," or I don't know what that is. Is that green you know? It's because they're buying packets.
I find the whole health system has to change, and I did write an email today to you and yours at BBC4.
Okay.
And I did tell them that the health system in old China was that the doctors did get paid how many healthy patients they had.
Yeah.
And I think this would
Really
be
good
a
idea.
really very good idea.
Turn it around.
And then I continued. I said I would find it very interesting when the NHS has to change, and they should set up a program. And then I said, and I would suggest it should be on the Isle of Wight, where people get encouraged to do nutrition courses, to do Tai Chi, Feldenkrais, yoga, whatever, and also meditation and things like this. And then they should compare the figures with the rest of the country if people have become healthier.
But it's not nutrition and cooking. The amount of people that just can't cook. And people go, "I haven't got time, I'm working." Well, most of my meals take about 20 minutes.
Yeah, but when you make when you offer courses and you explain to people, I find it's...
But they have it in schools here, don't they? Nutrition and cooking. I mean...
I don't think they don't have cooking. I think they've lost all the kitchens. Some do a bit of baking, but I did a day with Cowes Primary. I just went in and they said, "Would you come in and do some baking?" It was really interesting. We just made these sort of like healthy breakfast muffins, and we're all there and we're all making it, and it's fine. And they made them and the kids are all tucking in. The headmistress at the time came in and they went, "Oh, try the muffins." She went, "No, I've got a proper cake outside." And I was like, "Oh." And one by one they went, "Oh, actually I don't like this." And I'm like, okay. So it is difficult. I think it's just that this perception, and actually the same school, because when my daughter was there, they did the food pyramid, which of course actually a lot of countries are changing the food. I think Canada's completely changed that food pyramid now. And the same head teacher goes, "Oh, they've missed something. What about my box?" And I was like, "Don't say anything, don't say anything." And it is really difficult because they're laughing and they're joking about it. And it's quite difficult for kids also to go home and say, "Look what we've made," if that attitude is at home as well.
And they so believe their teachers. So believe their teachers.
Yeah.
Could you talk a bit more about you were talking about prebiotics?
Yes.
I'm not really aware of that. Is
Okay.
that just a bit of onion or
No, so prebiotics gets the gut ready to accept the probiotics, and so it gets the gut in a much better environment for the bacteria to grow.
And to do that, you
need to be eating
onion?
those foods.
I know,
So onion, garlic,
yeah.
chicory. There's inulin, which is a powder, which we sold out actually a few months ago. Angela Rippon did a programme about, I can't remember what it was about, but she talked about inulin, and that was made such a difference to her. Well, I'll tell you what, the whole country sold out. You know, people realised they didn't look like Angela Rippon once they'd been on it for a while, so it stopped selling after a while. It's about getting that. It's another one is called FOS, which is fructooligosaccharides, which is it's just a powder. So if you take it in that form, you take on a very low dose, and build up, because otherwise you can be quite windy.
But in terms of just natural food, it's just onion and garlic.
No,
and
onion,
chicory.
garlic, chicory, flax seeds. There's quite a few actually. I just wrote
unwashed vegetables.
And cooked.
Jerusalem artichokes.
Or
probably cooked.
actually, with garlic.
Yeah, unless you want friends or not.
Yeah.
There is actually, if you go online and put prebiotic foods, there's quite a lot.
Okay,
I mean, lentils and pulses can help, things like that. So it's getting things like that in.
I was wondering about dairy substitutes, because I'm fascinated by food.
Yeah.
And my mum, I grew up with an anorexic mum who didn't really eat a lot.
No.
But my dad was a bodybuilder, so
Okay.
he'd be eating chicken, loads of milk.
Yeah.
He's brought me up to think that milk is, you have to drink it.
Yeah.
And I can't.
So.
What can I have instead? Because I'm
So-
quite off it now.
Yeah. So there's a huge range of non-dairy milks now in all the supermarkets.
So
So soya's one. Soya's very processed. I mean, look, they're all processed to a level.
Yeah.
I think soya beans is, me personally, I think it's better to eat it as tofu or tempeh.
Okay.
Tempeh is a fermented food, so it's just a better form for the body. I think there's hazelnut, there's almond, there's coconut, there's hemp, there's oat ones. They're all natural. It's the real trick with it is finding one you like. I know that sounds odd, but actually, some work better in teas and coffees. Others work,
I was thinking of a morning cup of tea.
Yeah, that's the only problem I have.
Sorry.
Rice
stream, yeah.
I'm just thinking about those alternatives, but sometimes you have to be really careful choosing one because so many have sugar.
It's always go for the unsweetened ones.
The other thing you can do is buy one of these little grinders, and you can put your nuts in your.
If you've got enough time, you can make your own nut milk.
I don't
so
do
quick
it.
and so good, much better than the old one.
Make your own.
It's also looking at how much. What do you? You see, funny enough, actually now I'm trying to think, what do I use milk in, and I probably don't even.
I was thinking of porridge. I eat porridge quite a lot, and I was thinking, I do night shifts, and I'd be at work making me porridge, and I'm thinking all this milk, and I just.
It's also, we're talking about
diversity.
diversity.
Soy milk is really good. Any of them.
Porridge water is much nicer.
Scottish way, isn't it?
A bit of cinnamon.
But you can just use the soya milk, and it's just the same. It's
but
really
actually,
nice.
the other thing as well is to have some soy milk. Use that one up. Go and find another one. Find a different flavour. Hazelnut milk's amazing in porridge. And hot chocolate.
Coconut milk.
Coconut milk. The coconut milk. I had someone recently, and she said to me, she was on the coconut milk because that's the one that we probably get in. So I recommended it, and she said, I don't know what came over me. She said, I had a builder come round, and he said, can you make me a cup of tea? And she said, I just went into this panic. She said, I only had the coconut milk. So she said, I made this cup of tea for him. And he went, oh, this is delicious. And she said, instead of saying, it's a different milk, she said, yes, my son gets the tea from Hong Kong. She said, he doesn't. But she said, I don't know where that came from. And she said, but I couldn't bear to tell him it was not a proper milk. And I'm like, okay.
And you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it. I would say, for people that if we have people visiting, if they want a normal cup of tea, which is slightly we use the coconut one, and they're all happy on that. But it's about taste buds. That's the difficulty. I can love something, and I can give it to you, and you go,
It's yogurts and things. You start thinking.
So you soya yogurts, you've got coconut yogurts now, you've got almond yogurts now. There's such a vast range.
Hasn't got to be the dairy one.
Doesn't have to be the dairy one, and they're really good. Same with cheeses. There's some really good cheeses coming out on the market now.
What about goat's milk yogurt?
So if your body is fine with goat's milk, it's quite a strong taste goat's milk yogurt. It's it's quite nice in a goat's cheese. when we do the big tests, if somebody has a problem with cow's milk, actually sheep and goat are playing around a bit as well. The only one that most people don't have a problem with is buffalo, but I think that's only because you can only get it in buffalo mozzarella and they're probably not eating enough of it.
But if you're trying to reduce your dairy, which I do, but I do have goat's butter and a little bit of goat's cheese, but it's not so dairy, I keep telling myself. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, it's still from... I don't want to sound I'm not promoting veganism. I'm trying to say, it's from another animal.
Yeah.
Our bodies are meant to have human milk. Now, we can't go and buy a pint of human milk, so we're not doing that. As a species, we are the only species that's adults that has milk.
Yeah, that drink other animals.
And another animal's milk. I know sometimes if you've got a farm, sometimes you'll, have some animals that will wean off another animal type of thing. But, no other animal has milk because it's for babies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like you said, the cheese thing. So I can just skid by on my goat's cheese.
Look, I know when I found out it was dairy, I did burst into tears because I thought, oh my God, how am I going to cope without cheese? But now, funnily enough, there is some really good ones. But actually now, I don't have cheese very often. I don't even have the vegan cheeses.
It's like chocolate. You can wean yourself off.
Because I realised every meal I was making, I'd probably grate some cheese on the top, or cheese would be on. So so now I'm cooking differently. It's not. It doesn't go on there. I use some product called Nutritional Yeast, which is quite a cheesy flavour, and that's really quite. I quite like that.
I've got 2 questions.
Yeah.
In relation to sort of thing about the prebiotics and things. If what's your thoughts on completely clearing out and then sort of restocking, like with colonic irrigation? That's question 1.
It's quite difficult. I mean, I think if I'm honest, I've not had anyone do that, so I've not seen how that works. I think the thing is, this is just me thinking aloud. I would be quite nervous about that, having that complete clear out, because it has such a major effect on so many ways that the body works, and it can take a period of time to build up the levels that you'd need back again. Colonic irrigation, by clearing out, the only way I do have it is a lot of people quite often do it because they're not able to go to the toilet regularly. So what happens is they have the irrigation and they go, oh, we're not meant to be completely empty. The peristalsis won't work by being completely empty. So you'll feel better, but you're not necessarily resolving the problem. So that's probably how I would feel about it. I've got a client at the moment who's got chronic fatigue and she's got other issues, and she just went and did that. She said, oh, I feel amazing. Well, the toxins aren't being held, but it's not resolving the problem.
My second question was about the visceral internal fat.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about measuring that.
Yes.
And I went, how do you measure it? Because I thought you can only do it with an MRI.
No, so you can do it. So I've got some scales, and it's like your muscle and your fat and your visceral fat's different density. So it sends a little current. You don't feel it. You don't get perm. No, it sends a little current through. So it identifies what the different levels of percentages of the fats that are in there. So it will give me like your weight, your body percentage, your visceral fat number, and your muscle percentage.
Can we come into the shop to have that done?
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem. It's quite another one. It's quite useful to know because again, if anybody is overweight, it's quite good to know where your fat is as well. Because actually, having it on the outside of the body is better than the inside because it goes around all the organs, and we don't want that.
Yes.
Do you recommend fasting at all?
I do. I personally do intermittent fasting. So I generally, most days, probably every day, I do the 17-hour fast. So I have dinner and then I don't eat till lunchtime. That works really well for me. I will then do periods of time, which is a 22-hour fast. And it takes me about 3 days to get to that because I'll be going home going, oh, and while I'm making dinner, I'm eating. So I eat between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And once I'm on that, actually I feel amazing. I feel really, really good. I do manage to lose some weight that way. I don't manage to lose weight really any other way. my energy goes up, funnily enough. I think 3 meals a day was invented by the Americans. But we don't need to be eating every meal. And actually, I get some people, they're never hungry, but it's mealtime.
But what about sugar levels? I mean,
well, sugar levels, I mean, you know, the body's drawing on what it needs to from the body. It's utilising the glucose stores in the body. So when you're eating, you've got to eat really well. You know, if you're eating rubbish, you're going to be spiking and dropping. There has been research with people, even with diabetes, when they do the intermittent fasting, that actually they're finding that their insulin, everything's much more stable. But you've got to work as an individual. But a lot of people, because their balance of foods aren't right, they're still feeling shaky. So I would always say, if you're doing a fasting and you're feeling shaky, you need to eat something. But I would recommend like nuts and seeds, something like that. If you don't, you can be hungry. There's nothing wrong with being hungry. Why do we have to fill ourselves all the time?
Do you know, that's something I had a discussion with another grandma. That children never get hungry because their parents are
it's
feeding
mealtime
them the whole time. Yeah, but in between too, I want, and the parent gives.
You can also be thirsty. You can give the same signals as hungry. So I think intermittent fasting is really good. You can do it every day. You can do the 5-2. You can sort of find there's different ways of doing it. For me personally, on the 5-2, I'd be like, oh, I'm starving again. If I do it regularly, my body just adjusts to it, and I feel much better doing that.
I did. I was just going to try and clear out the body, which you said isn't very good. And I thought, I'll do a major fast, get rid of everything. So I was on a liquid fast. But day 3, my heart rate really escalated. So I ate. But so you would say that's not a good thing.
I don't like. I mean, there's
24 hours.
I mean, I tend to. There are a lot of people that recommend, 2 to 3 days of doing your fasting occasionally. I don't like, I mean, it's like, January is always this detox. Everyone's got to go on this massive detox. I don't think the body is able to deal with a lot of stuff. I don't think it needs to have this like suddenly massive shock in change. You've got to be eating well generally to allow it to heal. You're not going to sort everything out by just doing this short period of time. But that's probably me, that's what I feel. I don't see, I'm saying January because a lot of people, they'll go on some very strange things in January to sort things out. But it never lasts, and actually you're sort of picking the pieces up about April, May time that right, let's look at it properly. But because they've done the strange stuff.
So you don't have to clear out and start again. You can do it gradually.
I think you can do it gradually. I mean, I think a way of doing it is actually trying to do that 17 hours and getting the body used to not having that breakfast. But of course, we were all brought up breakfast is the best meal.
But the other interesting thing, if you link it with spirituality, the Buddha came up with the idea of 1 meal a day. And that they could be lighter, which then helped with their meditation and their enlightenment. So
the only difference I would say, if you are a monk, for example, you haven't got the stresses of life. You haven't got the all the jobs that you've got to do in the world. So actually they are going to need much less if they're going to meditate for most of the day than our probably modern life. But I think in essence it can still play around. I mean, when I do the 1 meal a day, I will, so to start with, I'll be like trying to eat the whole cupboards, but then it just starts to balance out, and you cook dinner and you're fine, and you eat and you're fine, you don't think about it. And it's really interesting how I tend to do about a 40-minute walk every day because that works well for me, but I don't lose energy. I sleep better.
And you're drinking, obviously, water, fruit teas and things like that. Yeah.
So it works for me. It takes a little while to adjust, and also you have got to be in the right headspace. If there's a lot going on, sometimes you go, oh, I need some food, but that's emotional. That's not that the body needs it.
What about drinking water after having a cup of coffee, like we do in Europe?
Yeah, continental. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you enjoy your coffee, it's probably not having too many cups in the day, but if you really enjoy your coffee, have some water afterwards. Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Sorry.
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 That's okay.
about alkaline water. There's a lot of
so there's you can get alkaline water. You can also get machines that make alkaline water, and there's a lot of research in, I think it's China actually, that they're working with patients with acid and alkaline water. So acidic water can really heal the skin. So you can get these machines that you can switch your water to be very acidic, and it can really heal the skin. There's a hospital, I think, and they're using alkaline water to help with the healing process, and they're seeing amazing but it's bringing that acid alkaline things through. But yeah, it's a really good. The machines are really expensive, and I think you've got to have quite a big kitchen to sort of fit it in. You can get so you can get some
water is acid.
Yeah, the pH is a bit higher. Yeah, so these machines can make it very acidic, which I can't remember what it takes it up to, or very alkaline, and you can and it's things like, if you wash your hair in alkaline, it's much better. I can't remember which way it is now, but yeah,
acidic for hair wash.
Yeah, acidic for the skin is really good. So they call it. I think they call it black water.
Black water.
It's not, but.
Hang on, sorry.
Okay, Helen, go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
No, just quite a while ago, we did this eating regime.
Yeah.
And it was based on food combining.
Yeah.
And
On
also
what,
food combining.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be the Cambridge diet, didn't it? I think they used to call it. That was food combining.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And that they also said eat only fruit on an empty stomach and only fruit in the morning. And we felt amazing, didn't we? Yeah. It was just really good, but I don't know.
Well, for some people, that would be a real hit of sugar. So for some people, they'd feel quite wobbly or quite really hungry by lunchtime, because it will spike you and drop you.
And the fruit.
Yeah, but it just depends on it. That's very individual. I could put someone else on that and they'd feel really unwell on it. So it's finding what works for you. But yeah, it's much better to have it on an empty stomach. But we tend to use fruit as a snack or as a pudding or something like that. I think it's better to have it before the meal, which goes against what we're used to having the sweeter foods afterwards. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, because somebody recently asked me the question about any suggestions for psoriasis, and you did mention eczema. Now, I know they're two entirely different things.
So psoriasis is, I would always look at food intolerances. It's about the gut. It's about getting that gut really healed and everything. It's about looking at their stress levels, because it's all tied in.
I did mention that, but beyond that.
So it can be sometimes it can be parasites, can also be causing it, but generally it's looking. So somebody with psoriasis, generally, if they can afford it, I do the bigger test, because we know the whole picture.
Sure.
So it's taking those foods out and then working with them to heal the gut. But stress is a massive part of it. Vitamin D as well.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people go their psoriasis better in the summer. But then they don't take the vitamin D in the winter, so it all gets worse again.
How much the tests are?
The smaller test is 65 and the big test is 295. 295. So most people do the smaller test. If they want the bigger one, I sort of say, well, save £2 coins, or find a way of saving just a small amount regularly so that you can get to it, because it will give you a bigger overview. But I have some, as I say, I'm probably doing, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 20 tests a week on the smaller tests. So we have really good results with that. So it just depends on what's happening. People with IBS are probably the smaller test will work, because it's going to be in their main food groups, which is what we're covering. Yeah.
And the smaller test shows you.
So it's doing like grains. It does the dairy, egg. It does yeast. It does some meat and fish, shellfish. It's got the sort of like, I suppose, the top 50 foods that people are having. It doesn't go into things like herbs and spices. So one of mine is sunflower. So sunflower oil is a real problem for me, which is in a lot of stuff. And that was the sort of the missing link for me when I knew it was sort of dairy, but I couldn't identify what it was sunflower for me. So that's worked for me on the bigger test. But it's, a lot of people just do really well on the smaller one, and we can sort of work with it. But there's a lot of, we can get the poisons out and do the gut healing, and then actually hopefully then all the rest will settle down as well. But the more we try and do what I call like a 3-day rule of diversifying your foods, it stops a lot of the problems. It's when it's going in every day, all the time.
What about when coloured fruits and vegetables are supposed to be aggravating pain, inflammation rather than pain? They call them the nightshades.
Yeah, the nightshades.
But again, if you want a varied diet, can you be doing, staying off nightshades and maybe just having the odd tomatoes?
Yeah. So it's what you
find I miss them.
So what you do with the nightshades is you take them all out.
Yeah.
Does your pain go down? That's the first question.
Sure.
If your pain goes down, right, you then leave it for a while. Then you bring one of them in, and then you go, has my pain increased? So some people it's all of them. Some people it's only one of them. So it's seeing, it's listening to your body.
Yeah. Okay.
You might find that having them occasionally makes no difference at all.
That's what I do actually. I just have them occasionally.
Yeah.
What are the nightshades?
Potatoes, aubergines, peppers, and
tomatoes.
Yeah.
Carrots? Are they in?
No. It's just those 4.
Potatoes. Oh, you can't live without them. But I reduced them right down.
I have a question about mineral water. I've heard that San Pellegrino is meant to be very good because it's got lots of minerals and stuff.
It can be. I mean, I think it's that whole thing, isn't it, about saving the planet, of not buying all this bottled water type thing, and your minerals. So yes, I mean, different mineral waters have different balances of minerals in from wherever they've gone, what rock bed they've gone on, and where they've sort of been sourced from. So it's all going to be, it's going to be different. But to me, personally, everyone needs to be on a multivitamin and mineral. That's just topping up your diet, because a lot of people go, I'm on a healthy diet, I don't need that. Well, we don't know how much level of vitamins we're getting. So we start with that, and maybe an omega fish, like either a fish oil or a flaxseed oil type thing. And that's going to really give your body a good basis. And then we go, right, what's going on? What do we need? But people don't need to be on boxes and boxes of supplements.
But that was going to be my next one. I fast for the last 3 weeks quite regularly as well, intermittent, or like 36 hours or whatever. Is it then especially a good idea when I try and eat as healthy as I can? Is it a good idea when you're fasting to sort of supplement a little bit?
The difficult with fasting on an empty stomach is you'll feel nauseous, because the supplements on the empty stomach can quite often make you feel sick.
So to have them on days that you're eating then?
Yeah, so it's after food. You have food in your stomach first and then take them.
Yeah, and just a multi?
Yeah. And again, it's listening to your body. So it's like going, you may be fine completely just on a multi, that's it. Depends what's happening in your life, if that makes sense, whether we need to top up anything or help with anything. Yeah. But they are meant to supplement the diet, but a lot of people rely on it. I've got one client and he's got such a phobia with foods, he eats 5 foods. So we have to supplement quite high while we're working on trying to get him to engage with having other foods. So, yeah.
How well does the body absorb supplements? Because when you
I'm really glad you asked that, actually.
Hard,
so
chalky things.
So supplements come in different sort of ways. So I'm not going to say any shops or anything, but some mainstream supplements are one step above veterinary grade. So the cheap ones in some of the supermarkets and places they're just above veterinary grade, so the body can't absorb it. So I quite often say to people, actually, you'll absorb probably the pot better than the supplements. Then you can get to levels, you go from that level all the way up to pharmaceutical grade. So the big thing with supplements is probably going to somewhere that you trust of where you're buying, whether that's online or as an independent or wherever. But it's making sure that you get the best you can afford. But they don't have to be super expensive, and that's what's really frustrating. It doesn't have to be the more money you spend on them. It needs to be that it's a really good quality, and the good quality ones you will absorb. So yeah.
Because there's quite a bit about minerals, aren't there?
Yeah.
About taking mind minerals as opposed to plant minerals and all of those.
But it's I always laugh because it's like when we go up to the trade shows, there's always the new fad. At the moment it's CBD oil, which is like in everything. Have a lip balm, it's got CBD oil in it. Have this, and it's like, it just makes it really difficult for people, and it's really expensive, and it's like, that's not going to help you, I'm sorry, but a lip balm with CBD oil is not going to help. teas are coming out, and things like that. And it's like, actually, go and smoke it. It's probably better for you. Doesn't say that. But actually, I wish they actually enabled certain stores, whether it's like my store or something, that actually if somebody comes in with a prescription, you can have the right thing that, it's the same as like herbal remedies compared to pharmaceuticals. It's originally, the pharmaceuticals has quite often been developed from the herbals, but they synthesize it and then they charge a lot of money for it. Well, this little plant does the same job.
Exactly.
And it's probably better in a lot of cases. Sorry.
Okay, thanks very much.
And more readily absorbed.
More readily absorbed. Yeah.
Well, a couple of months ago we did actually have a Western herbalist here.
Yeah.
She was amazing. I don't think some of you were here, and said exactly what you've just said. That that's where medicine, which I think most of us know, was discovered through herbs. But to actually increase your herb, and she was giving us herb tea to try. Yeah,
which is really nice. Of course, they used to be called witches, didn't they?
And we discussed that as well, if I recall.
So it is difficult, and I think it's really interesting how, I think also the doctors, we used to have a GP that everyone we knew. They knew us, they knew the family history, they would come out to the home, they knew what was going on, so they would they knew the whole history. You don't now even see the same doctor, and you've got 5-minute appointment. Well, you can't tell them how you feel. And sometimes I have people come in and they go, I don't really know what's wrong with me, I just don't feel right. But you can't go into a doctor and go, I just don't feel right, because they go, it's your age.
That's a golden one. What do you expect at your age? I get that all the time.
And I go, no, it's not about age, it's about rebalancing the body. Every decade we need to rebalance the body. We can't eat and drink and party the same as we could in our 20s. Sadly. Our memory is good, but we can't do it. So it's about nurturing the body. There's no reason why we can't have a very active and healthy life at any age. Have I exhausted you all?
Run out of questions, everybody?
Well, I was just going to ask about coconut oil.
Yes. So coconut oil is it is a saturated fat, so everyone goes, but it's a medium chain fat. Okay. So the only other medium chain fat we normally come into connection with is breast milk. So it's very absorbable to the body. It's really good to cook with because it's very stable at high temperatures. So olive oil to dress, coconut oil to cook.
Can you have it?
Yeah. So you can use it for remineralising the teeth. So you put some in your mouth and you swill it around for about 15-20 minutes and spit. Don't swallow.
Yeah.
And
not in the toilet.
Yeah. And it can be, as long as it's a very odd thing to start with because it feels very odd to put a spoonful of fat into your mouth.
Well, I was reading an article it's called oil pulling.
Oil pulling, yeah, absolutely.
And I was reading an article literally 2 days ago, and the person that wrote the article mentioned coconut oil and 2 or 3 others, but said their favourite was sesame oil for oil pulling. But they said to try and swish it around for 15 minutes can be very daunting. So start with 3 to 4, 5 minutes and build up.
How long you can, It's in my bathroom as a staple, for moisturiser on your hair. It's
absolutely,
amazing.
it does everything.
I use it as a moisturiser.
There's also research that they've been finding research that actually for Alzheimer's, that if they're having regular coconut oil, they're seeing a change in that it's not progressing. And I did have one customer, and her little girl, she was about 6 and had a black tooth. And she said, right, we're going to do oil pulling. I'm like, God, good luck. And she also put, fermented cod liver oil as well. She made her have this. And she brought her in it was probably about 3 or 4 months later, and it had completely gone back to white.
Wow.
And if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. I don't know how she got a 6-year-old to do it, mind you. I think I was more impressed at that, actually.
Oil pulling? Why pulling?
It helps to remineralise, so it helps to sort of get rid of...
pulls out
all the bacteria, everything. That's why you'd spit it out.
But you mustn't swallow.
No.
Oh, and in this article they were quite categoric, and I think Henrietta just mentioned that you don't spit into the sink or the loo because the fats go into the drainage. You spit into the garbage.
Which, of course...
Fermented foods. Is vinegar good for you?
Or
not?
As long as you haven't got a yeast problem. If you have a yeast intolerance, you can't have vinegar. Cider vinegar, there's a lot of, claims of health benefits for cider vinegar. I prefer having hot water and lemon. That's my first drink of the day as an alkalising, because although it's an acidic fruit, it's alkalising. I'm afraid I don't like cider vinegar. It makes me I just don't like it. But it does the same sort of thing. But it's just, it works really well for some people. But again, it's trialing it for
yeast.
It's a lot of yeast. Yeah.
What do you think about the celery juice, which
the new thing that's out? It's been very interesting actually, because we have a lot of people coming in for celery juice, and they're going, "Can we buy it?" Not one of my suppliers has even brought celery juice in at the moment.
But you can juice it yourself.
You can juice it yourself. Yeah. I do feel personally there's no one wonder food. It's about having a diverse amount. It depends where you're coming from. It's like, depends what your health is. I haven't drunk a load of celery juice at the moment to see what it does for me, which is what I normally do. I sort of trial it on me. So I don't know. I mean, there's lots of claims, but it's like every year there's, next year there'll be another wonder something. And that's what I think makes it difficult for people, because it's like, well, I've been doing celery juice, and then next year they go, oh no, actually celery juice isn't very good, it's this one now.
Yeah, I think it's about that balance, isn't it? But I use celery in cooking quite a lot, and I put it in juices like apple and
I think celery is a bit of an underused vegetable, actually. We only use it in a sort of, or it used to be Philadelphia cheese down the middle. Other brands are available.
Yeah. Any more questions?
No, all the matter.
I eat kefir. I just found the co-op and do kefir yogurt. And I've been having that pretty much every morning. Yeah. But it's an organic one.
Okay.
But now but then of course it's got the dairy.
Yeah.
But when I've looked at the alternatives to dairy, they just seem to be full of fillers.
No, we stock a coconut one, which isn't. You can do, and you can also you can buy the kefir grains online, and actually you can make it with coconut water. There's a website called Body Ecology, and she rates kefir very highly, but she uses coconut water to make it. Mm-hmm. So if you want to try and get away from the dairy a bit.
I must admit, I do make my kefir with dairy, but I use Riddlesford. I was told to use, the local milk, because it's very thick and
and it's fine as long as your body's fine with milk.
It's changing it anyway, isn't it? Yeah. Changing the balance of the milk.
I have yogurt every morning, and I put lots of powders like spirulina and bone-grass and things in it. And I really enjoy that, but I mean, would I know if I wasn't tolerant to dairy?
So you'd probably have symptoms. So the symptoms can change from eczema, asthma, IBS symptoms, diarrhea, constipation, itching skin. It can be. So it's those sort of things. Tonsillitis a lot. That's a classic. Certainly with kids, you see that have tonsillitis.
What about acne?
Can be acne.
Can it?
Yeah.
I suppose only a test would let you know definitively.
Yes. So some people are coming because they've got a lot of those symptoms, and they sort of but they go, oh, it's wheat, and I go, no, it's dairy.
Do you think that if you can go down that route, that the body will actually tell you, that you're, because my sister could never take any dairy.
Yes.
And so from a toddler, and she would be nauseous in the thought of it.
So I have some people that actually the children won't drink milk, so they put chocolate powder in it, and then the body will go, oh, it's chocolate flavour. So it's trying to, you've got to balance with kids. It's like, are they just playing up, or actually their senses are much better? We've lost our sense of we used to, when we were hunter-gatherers, we'd go and pick and go, oh no, that berry's poisonous, I mustn't have that. We've lost that sense.
So we wouldn't sense in our necessarily our own
and
body
also, of course,
that could be the milk.
The way we're eating, milk is an ingredient in a lot of things. So you may not be having a glass of milk or a yogurt, but you might have all these foods with milk in.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's quite difficult to identify unless if we were, right, actually we're eating apples today because I found an apple tree, and then you will every time you had an apple, we'd know.
Yeah.
But with the way that the food's produced now, I don't know what you all eat, so I'm not assuming you don't, but generally we're not eating real food.
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of going back to, I said to someone the other day, it's going back to the 1950s. We were just coming out of rationing. The sugars weren't really around. We were eating very seasonal, not too much meat, but there was some meat coming in, fish on Fridays type of thing, you know, and it was really local produce, really well done. No snacking, no eating in the streets, no takeaways, and it's in some ways we need to go back to that very simple way of eating.
Yeah, no chicken nuggets or whatever.
No crisps.
I think I always work on the theory if you can't say the ingredient, it's probably not good for you. Or actually, how many ingredients is food in there?
Yeah.
There's certain.
Yeah, there's a theory, isn't there? If on the packet or the jar or tin, it lists more than 5 ingredients, then you shouldn't
have it. Yeah. And there's some crisps, I won't say the brands, but actually there's not even any potato really in there. I think there's a starch in there, but it's sort of...
I found a bag the other day because I do like potato crisps occasionally.
Yeah.
But it said just potatoes. I thought, well, now there's a thing. Potato crisps, just potatoes, and a touch of salt. But just potatoes. I thought, how odd that they have to advertise.
But you look at the ingredients on a lot of packets of crisps. It's just
Oh, no, I don't eat those at all.
But but that's what a lot of the kids are having. It's in all their packed lunches, and that's what they're snacking on. And there's people buying massive bags of crisps that go in the cupboard.
And those bags are getting bigger. I think they have something like 18 small packs in now.
And they're buying that weekly.
Any more comments? Any more questions? Any more anything?
Have you got a card?
Yes.
Did Sandra not give you one when you came in?
I gave everybody one.
I thought I gave you one because you were the first one in.
But I think there's spares. There's spares there, so.
Yeah.
Is the dark chocolate better than the other chocolate, or is still the sugar?
Gotta get the chocolate.
Okay, so with chocolate,
I love chocolate.
Chocolate is the most amazing thing. I think most of us will agree that. So we've got your purest form of chocolate is cacao. Okay, so that is that's the pure. It's got all the antioxidants, all the goodness in it. Next level down is cocoa. Okay, so cocoa powder, very dark chocolate. And then you go down, I think about 500 processes down is dairy milk. It's not, but it keeps going less and less. So to eat really good chocolate, the darker you can eat, the better. Now, most people aren't hardcore enough to have 100% cacao because it is very bitter. So, if that's the worst thing that you're having, the darkest that you can eat, but with a bit of sugar in it, it's fine. There are brands that they make it with a coconut palm sugar, so it's a lower GI, and it's raw cacao. So we sell a product called On Bar, which is the most amazing chocolate. But it's about ease, but it's about buying the best you can, isn't it? It's not about eating these sort of random. Well, there's nothing wrong with having it occasionally. It's just making sure you're not having it all the time. We all like rubbish and junk food sometimes.
Do you remember when they used to have that advert? Oh, you wouldn't remember, you're too young. A Mars a day.
Yeah.
Helps you
work the day.
How good advertising.
I used to commute up to London, and every day I used to pick up it was a marathon bar, which is now a Snickers bar, and then wonder why I was putting loads of weight on, and it was like...
Just to think they advertise it, but that's the key of marketing and the dairy.
In one of the sports shops in Newport, I noticed on the weekend, they've now got Mars bars with high protein.
And it's like all these fizzy drinks, isn't it? The
energy drinks
and they're full of sugar
and we have so many people, a lot of people with chronic fatigue type scenarios that have spent a lot of time because they feel tired, they're having energy drinks or caffeine and stuff like that, and it's just destroying.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of them have got that, what's it in, aspartame or something, poison,
which kills brain cells off, so it's all good for you. It's when you see kids walking to school in the morning drinking.
I know. Shocking, isn't it?
What about sweeteners?
What about?
Ooh.
Their sweeteners are developed to make you want to have sweeteners. Actually, I'd rather you had sugar in an odd way. I'd rather you had sugar than sweetness. They're really.
You can get unrefined sugar. Or
they're very chemical. They're really not. They're very acidic to the body. Really not good for the body.
But I've been using one particular type for about 20 years. It hasn't harmed me.
How do you know?
That's true. But I still, but I don't. It's not.
What would you have been like without them? What would you have been like without them?
Well, probably a lot fatter.
So honey's still quite high, but I think it depends on how much you're having. Honey has a lot of benefits. It's a really, certainly when you're having local honey, it can help with hay fevers and things like that. But so it's about how much sugars you're having, really.
I make my own sweets with almonds and dates and chocolate, and it's absolutely delicious.
But if somebody had a really strong sweet, if someone had a really strong sweet tooth, it wouldn't be sweet.
It's not this one, no? It's not this one.
No. Okay, are we all done with the questions?
Thank you very much.